little curveball here. I'm not Sam Thornton. But be patient. You will get to hear from Sam. Sam was kind enough. He was speaking tonight. It worked out great. Sam went on the mission trip with us this year, so we decided that we would have Northview come up. If you see a bunch of people wearing this shirt right here, they went on the mission trip. Most of Northview's right in here in the middle here. I won't have them stand up or anything like that, but say hi to them. They're the sister congregation that goes on the mission trip with us, stateside mission trip every year. But Sam was kind enough to let me do a little recap, and they came up to see it. So you get a little double dose here. So the stateside mission trip, if you're not familiar with it, we've been doing this we started in 16, so 9 years ago, but we skipped a COVID year. So this is the 8th one that we've done. We were looking for something to kind of take the place of the Mexico mission trip that we did for so many years, which was a great trip if you got to go on one of those. I know you're thankful that you got to go on one, or however many you went on, because those were great trips. It's where I met Bobby Grisham. Yeah, my first mission trip, Bobby Grisham was my roommate, and I kept going after that. No, that's where Bobby and I really became friends. So if you go on a mission trip, you're going to make some friend stuff. So this was to take the place of that. It got too dangerous down there, so we started just sending money there to finish those up. So we were looking for something, and this kind of fell in my lap. We were at church camp one year. I met a guy from Oklahoma, and they had a thing. We started going to Oklahoma. We went to Oklahoma for 3 years, and then Northview got involved, and we decided Oklahoma wasn't far enough, so we went out to Arizona. And that's as far as we've been. I don't know if we'll do that again. It was a great trip, don't get me wrong, but that's a long ways. So we dialed it back just a little bit, and we just went to South Dakota this year. We had been to South Dakota before, so we had talked about maybe we go and revisit some places that we had been. We've been to 4 or 5 different places, and so this kind of was unanimous. Everyone was like, if we're going to go back to somewhere, we got to go back to Vermilion. So we went to Vermilion Church of Christ in Vermilion, South Dakota, again this year. We had such a great time there the first time. It was kind of, a no-brainer that they were the first one that we revisited. So the basics of the mission trip are really 2 parts. We do a VBS every night, which Northview is kind enough to head up. They're great. They have a lot of great minds there that can come up, a lot of creative people who come up with these VBSs, and they do a great job with that. And we kind of head up what we do in the day, which is work projects. We might work on our church building, and we try to get out in the community as much as possible. But this is our group that went. This is the entire group. Some of them look a little fresher than others. Some of us had driven 13 or 14 hours the day before, and a small group, we call them the chosen ones, flew to Omaha, and we picked them up. So they only had a couple-hour drive. But there we are, getting ready. That's worship service, before worship service Sunday morning. That's their building in the back. That building looked drastically different the first time we went, and they have really spent some money on their building. They're upgrading it, giving it some curb appeal, all that, the red siding, the hardy and stuff, a new roof, a new windows they had done. And I was talking to Cliff, who is one of the main men there and my main contact with Vermilion, and he was gracious, and he said he gave us the credit for that. He said, you guys started it when you came 3 years ago. We remodeled part of their downstairs, which you'll get to see a picture of later. And he said, we realized then that we had to step up our curb appeal game. They're right there off of the main part of town, and he said we needed to upgrade our building just to be more appealing to the people. So they gave us credit for it, but they did a wonderful job. Their building looks great. So I'm just going to go through a few pictures here. The Church of Christ is located in a college town, Vermilion. Has a medium-sized college there, but it's 2 hours away from the next closest Church of Christ, something we can't. I mean, I can drive a mile in any direction and hit a Church of Christ. These guys are 2 hours away from the next Church of Christ. That's the picture in the top. I don't know if that's it's my top right. Is that your top right? Okay. Top right. That's that's their congregation there. A great group, bunch of people. Love the Lord. It's good. A great singing congregation for the size of them. They can really sing. But so happy. They're real happy for us to be there. So, get into some of the pictures here. I'll just go through quickly. I don't want to take much of Sam, as little of Sam's time as possible. So we lost a couple of jobs this year. We had so it's kind of on the Vermilion group to find us something to do during the day. So they had some stuff lined up, but we lost a couple of jobs before we get started. That lady wasn't ready. A railing didn't come in, and she got overwhelmed. And we were supposed to do some stuff with a fence, and we were trying to do more in the community this year, but some of those fell through. So this is some guys. They're starting on. They had a bad set of steps, a little landing on by that door, set of steps. So we're like, well, we'll just replace that because we were looking. We're kind of scrambling for some jobs to do. So day one they tore that down, poured a little pad for the steps to set on. And I know Chuck Thornton will be proud. Yes, that's Quickcrete that we used to build that pad, Chuck. Then, of course, we have the nightly VBS. Just about every lady that went taught a class. We had 4 men teach the adult class. Jackson taught a night, Kevin there taught a night, Jeremy taught a night, and Josh taught a night. That's the burning bush behind Kevin there, in case you were wondering. Like I said, they're very creative over at Northview. And then, of course, there's Sam and Chandler and Connor leading the songs before, and then Tammy and Laura teaching the class at VBS. Some more pictures of VBS. Connor, like I said, Charlton Heston doesn't have anything on Connor. He's a great Moses. And there's Josh playing Aaron. So there's us doing some more work on the building. We did some painting. Mitchell done a little vacuuming, cleaned up the windows. They're getting ready to do a little landscaping there on the side of the building. They did some more painting around back. Connor really intense there. Kevin looking even more intense there. We did a little painting on the back. That was kind of some needed a paint job, so we did that. There's Sam and Jackson, resident builders there on. You don't see me in many of these pictures doing this. My job is really to find everybody's jobs there. I mean, sometimes I get to work, and I would prefer to do the work, but we were scrambling for jobs this year. So after those fell through, so you don't see me driving any nails, even though that's my profession. But Sam and them putting the steps together. That's 3 beautiful stair stringers if I've ever seen them. Here's Ken and Doug. Ken Wilbur, you don't have to find him anything to do. He's going to find something for himself to do. He's gonna just turn him loose. He's going to find something to do. So they're replacing an outside hydrant there. I think they got their first experience with PEX pipe that day. There's another group there finishing up the steps. Come on, man. Ooh. Okay, this, let me back up one. I got too fast. All right, so we also had quite a bit of fellowship out there. It stays light in the summertime till like almost midnight. I mean, if you can believe it, we're 13 hours away. They're still in the central time zone. So on the far edge of it, on the western edge of it. So it stays light there forever. So Cliff and Sherry Yacht were kind enough to have us out to their home one night. They had kept asking us, I finally caved in. I said, yeah, we're going to come. So we went out, we had a fire, had a little gotcha basketball game. I almost killed Monroe. I got a little bit too competitive, as I sometimes do. Uh, and we had s'mores and stuff, and just fellowship, and just had, like I said, Vermilion. They're a great group. Um, Here's where we were finishing up the landscaping. That's a job we added. This they're on a corner lot on the two streets, and this was one of the corners. And Cliff came up with the idea, hey, would y'all mind doing some landscaping? I said, no, we don't mind doing anything. Of course, he pitched in. There's Cliff with the hose in the back. There's a rare photo right there of of Bobby doing some actual work. Yeah, he dropped the union card and picked up a pickaxe. So he's demonstrating how to use it. We had what was it, Bobby? Be Nice to Bobby Day. Yeah, we had several of those Be Nice to Bobby days. Here is another one we picked up, a job we picked up. They had some people who were having trouble getting in up that little ramp. They had an older rail there. It had fallen down and stuff, and asked could we replace it. And I was like, we couldn't find a metal one to go back, so Sam and Jackson and Doug, they took a thought I had and ran with it. And I mean, it's even better than I thought it would turn out. Built a rail in the front of their church there to help people get in from that street. Come on, man. There we go. Yeah, this slide here, I didn't want to. So in this slide, that is John Allen and Hannah Thomas. John Allen's the youth minister there, and that's Josh and Jana Brown. Every day, they loaded that cooler up with popsicles, with ice pops, and they went down to the park trying to find kids to go to VBS every day. And they took kids with them. There's a park just down the road there where they're headed. They came over to where another place we were working at. We were in a mobile home park replacing a door one time. They came over there and walked around, just hunting kids. They did that tirelessly the entire week, going looking for kids to invite to VBS. So I wanted to be sure to mention that tonight. Let's see. There we go. Every night we did have ice cream. There's the ice cream crew, homemade ice cream every night of VBS. They did a great job, wonderful job as well. This slide here, this is one of my jobs. I had to. Now this is a diverse group. I had the age difference is pretty big here. I have everyone from Darden's age to Ken Wilbur. 1 to Ken Wilbur was the age gap there. Be Nice to Ken Day. But this lady was in the community there. She had recently had a surgery and just wanted her windows washed. So we went and got some Windex and we washed some windows. That took a group. So even Darden pitching in there. And that's a mother of 4 holding a 1-year-old on a step ladder washing some windows. That's pretty impressive there to Jessica. This is the mobile home that we replaced the front door in. Connor caught a little snake there. We also mowed his yard while we were there and weed eated and cleaned up some stuff, but had a little nest of snakes under there and Connor caught one. They're playing with it there. That was the door we replaced there was a guy who, one of the members there at the Vermilion Church had been going to work and he'd been inviting him to church and stuff, and so his door was pretty bad shape, so thought it might give a boost, maybe getting him into church if we went up there and helped him out. So we were glad to do it. Here's them. Here's Jackie and Jessica teaching their class, and Laura getting ready for their VBS class. Let's see. There we go. All right. So then this room on the bottom right, on your bottom right, that's the room we redid 3 years ago. They use it for their high school class now, and the kids hung out in it pretty much the entire week when we were having meals and stuff there. That's where they hung out. There's Josh doing his Bible class. If you ever get a chance to go hear him lead a Bible class, he's an excellent teacher, by the way. And then there's Mitchell and Jessica. Mitchell, this was their first time to go with us, and so we're at a place called the Spirit Mound. Lewis and Clark is huge out there. It's along the Lewis and Clark Trail. I don't know how much y'all know about Lewis and Clark, but they were really incredible people. What they did with the Missouri Purchases, the Louisiana Purchase and stuff, not Missouri. But anyway, we're standing on this. This is a site that's in their diaries, the Spirit Mound, and we walked up. We did it the first time. We went up there. We had a devotional. We sung songs at one evening. You can see it's really flat up there, and this is really just a little mound. I don't know. It might be 50 foot in elevation, maybe. So it's not a real big thing. You would drive by it around here and not even think of it as anything. But to Lewis and Clark, it was a big deal. They had to brave some 3-foot demons that shot poisonous arrows to go up on this hill and look around when they were going out there. So we walk. It's a historical site. So we walk up there and we're singing along. And Mitchell he got voluntold, I think, by Jessica that he was doing the Devo that night. And he did an excellent job speaking about what it meant to his family to go for the first time. It's really cool you can see forever, even though you're only up on this little mound. It's but it's a really cool place out there. And then last slide. Everyone who goes, we spend a week living like family. I don't even know if you want to call it living like family, because I don't know if your families are like my families, but we have arguments from time to time in my family. Zero disagreements. Our bunch merges with the Northview bunch like seamlessly. Everyone's happy the whole week, really. It's a wonderful thing. If you ever get to go, we're going to continue doing it. I don't think Jeremy's already planning next year. He was planning next year before he left. So if you ever get to go, and I hope the elders will keep allowing us to go. I thank them for allowing us to go on these trips. I think you'll do some good. You won't be able to put a price on what you mean to the people where we go and visit for the week, but you'll gain so much more and get that much closer to everyone that we go with and our brothers and sisters here. So I'm gonna close with a prayer, and then I'm gonna hand it off to my friend Sam. Father God, we just thank you for another day of life, for another day to come and worship you and sing songs of praise to you, Lord. Dear Lord, we thank you for the opportunities that you give us to do good. Please help us and strengthen us, and always give us the boldness to seize upon those opportunities to do good. We thank you for this trip that we had in Vermilion this year. We thank you for all of our safe travels there and back. I thank you for everyone who went on this trip, for the elders of both congregations who saw fit to allow us to have this trip. Well, thank you for the Vermilion congregation. I pray that you will be with them, that you will strengthen them, both spiritually and in number. We just thank you for all you do for us, Lord. Dear Lord, we love you, and we love your Son, and it's through him that we pray. Amen. So now I'm going to hand it off to my friend Sam Thornton. If y'all are not familiar with Sam, he is the son of our own Chuck and Patsy Thornton, wife Beth. He has 3 children, Taylor, Bailey, and Braden, 4 grandchildren, Henry, Harvey, Harrison, and Bo. He is the fire chief here in Portland, and he has been my friend for at least 30 years. So I'm going to steal Bud's line here. Brother, come preach.
Thank you, Brent. Brent asked for 10 minutes. He took 20, and I am thankful for every bit of that. That made it so much easier for me. I'll echo his comments. Number one, I'm sorry I didn't wear my shirt. I just could not get comfortable, but Beth did find me a tie. That was as close as what we had to our shirts. Love those trips. Come back tired, but rejuvenated. If you've ever thought about going, let me encourage you, start making plans next year. We'll have a meeting probably starting in February, March. And that is like, hey, how many hotel rooms do we need to get? It's great to get to go see other Christians at other places and to help them out. I do want to clarify one thing about the Spirit Mound. The little demons, the little 3-foot demons with the poisonous arrows, that's a Native American tale. That's where that comes from. That's where everybody was scared of. And I really wish I could have met the guy that told that very first story, because it was like all the Native Americans would not go there because there were demons up there that are going to shoot you with poisonous darts. And that just always amazes me. That storyteller had to be fantastic at his job, or he had something buried up there and we still haven't found it. It's either way. I'm going to speed it up just a little bit. I was fortunate enough to be able to teach the Sunday morning Bible class when we went to Vermilion, and part of this is what I taught up there. So for some of you, it's kind of a repeat if you paid attention. And then some of it was some of the things that I took away from your lesson. So when we look at this, let my people go. And we all know the story of Moses. If you were in the auditorium Sunday morning Bible class this morning, you got to hear Brother Andy talk about going back and revisiting the Sunday school lessons that we learned as children, but maybe getting the adult side of it and digging deeper into it. And so I kind of want to look at this. We're all familiar with Moses, but back up to Genesis chapter 15. And while I had a lot of this wrote out, I'm just going to kind of start trying to summarize a little bit. But we'll start in Genesis chapter 15. And there is where God tells Abram, you're going to be the father of many. There's going to be so many nations, and he says, there's no way, God, I don't even have an heir. My closest one is this one, lives over here. And he's like, no, it's going to be your own. And then verses 13 through 15, the Lord said to Abram, know for certain that your offspring will be sojourners in a land that is not theirs and will be servants there. They will be afflicted for 400 years. But I will bring judgment on the nation that they serve, and afterward they shall come out with great possessions. As for you, you shall go to your fathers in peace. You shall be buried in a good old age. So how awesome is it for one moment to be told you're going to be the father of many nations? There's still some doubt on his, but you get that promise. But then you get told, hey, by the way, they're going to be sojourners. They're not really going to have anything for 400 years. And it's not going to happen in your lifetime. You're never going to see it. But how awesome is that to be told that? But then there's the humble side of it, of being told over here. One of the things that stick out to me, ironically, in Genesis chapter 16 and verse 1, when we know that Abram and his wife Sarah try to take a couple things. Okay, we'll figure out how to get an heir, and takes Hagar, the servant. And where is Hagar from? She's from Egypt. Where are we going to end up? Egypt. Sometimes I feel like that's just God's sense of humor. When we do get to the son of promise, Isaac, in Genesis chapter 26, if you want to turn over there real quick and just be scanning verses 1 through 5, there comes another famine, and not the one that happened during Abraham's time, but a famine that happened during Isaac's time. And of course, at the time, you got to go looking for food. There wasn't Food Lion, Cash Saver, Kroger. It wasn't just there available. Where's the food? I've got to travel to that land. And the Lord appears to Isaac in verse 2 and said to him, do not go down to Egypt, dwell in the land of which I shall tell you. Again, Egypt apparently was going to be a place that maybe we should go to. That's where we can find food. And God says, no, it's not yet time. Do not go to Egypt. So we get through the rest of Isaac's life, and we have Jacob and Esau, and we have Jacob still in the birthright. You can read Esau and his wife were kind of tormenting the family a little bit. So we get through all that. And then we get to later in Jacob's life. He's already been renamed Israel at this time. So if you turn over to Genesis chapter 46, verses 1 through 4, Joseph is already there. The brothers have already went. This is where they're going to have to go and get the food. And Joseph has told his brothers, go back, bring back Dad. I need you to come back here. We've made the provisions. We have stored up for 7 years. There's food here. There's plenty for you. It's time for you to come. In Genesis chapter 46, verses 1 through 4. So Israel took his journey with all that he had and came to Beersheba and offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. And God spoke to Israel in visions of the night and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, Here I am. Then he said, I am God, the God of your father. Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for there I will make you into a great nation. I myself will go down with you to Egypt, and I will also bring you up again. And Joseph's hand shall close your eyes. So I'm not sure, we're not really told whether Abraham told them about the promise. I feel like it was probably passed on. At some point there's going to be 400 years, but at this point we find God saying, it's time to go. It's time to go down to Egypt. Go in peace. Understand you're not going to leave. Joseph will close your eyes. That is where you're going to die. You will not depart from that land. So we know that they go, and then we get down to Exodus. If you want to turn over to Exodus chapter 1, and we'll be in verses 7 through 10. But the people of Israel were fruitful and increased greatly. They multiplied and grew exceedingly strong, so that the land was filled with them. Now there arose a new king over Egypt, who did not know Joseph. And he said to his people, Behold, the people of Israel are too many and too mighty for us. Come, let us deal shrewdly with them, lest they multiply. And if war breaks out, they join our enemies and fight against us and escape from the land. Everything that God had said is starting to come true. They went to a land just to make sure they could survive. They were fruitful and they multiplied, and as God told them, you're going to become a great nation. But something happened along the way. Something happened. History was not taught for whatever reason on the Egyptian side. That they did not remember that it was a foreigner, a sojourner, someone that had been sold into slavery, that interpreted dreams, saved their civilization. They forgot about that. And all they noticed was, wow, that's a lot of people out there. And if they ever wanted to turn against us, or if anybody ever wanted to march against us, those numbers would be greater than what we could take care of. We got to do something about that. It's scary that just what people think other people might do can lead them down to terrible, terrible actions. So we know we start going through centuries of this treatment, centuries of slavery, centuries of what started out as a friendship, what started out as thank you, please bring your family, I want to meet them, turns into you're our forced labor, you will do what we say, we're scared of you, so we're going to be even harsher with you. And then we get to the point where they become so numerous that the Pharaoh says, we have to do something about it. We have to do population control. So I want every male Hebrew child killed. Tell the midwives they are to kill when they are there delivering. If it's a boy, they are to kill the baby boy. By divine intervention, the midwives don't. They don't. They say the Hebrew women are too strong, too vigorous. They've actually given birth before we can get there, which was probably true. We're talking about people who are having to do forced labor. We just can't do it. We can't do what you ordered, Pharaoh. And it says that God showed favor to the midwives for doing that. So then we start getting into what we would remember as children. The babies, if you come across a Hebrew baby boy, throw them into the Nile. And we find that Moses is born, and they hide Moses for 3 months, and at that point they have to weave the basket and they put him in the river. But we never do talk about the other side of how many baby boys were thrown into the Nile. How much sadness was there in the Hebrew nation during that time in having to watch children be thrown into a river and drown? And I'll bring that point up as we look at Exodus chapter 2, verses 9 and 10. And this is what we're all familiar with as kids. As Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away," after they had found Moses in the basket. "Take the child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages." So the woman took the child and nursed him. By the way, that Pharaoh's daughter's servant has already found Moses. Here he is. This is a Hebrew child. What should we do? Number one, she broke the law. She was supposed to just throw him in the water. She didn't. We're going to keep the baby. That's a soft spot in the heart. I need somebody that can nurse it. Moses' sister, "Hey, I actually know somebody that actually can nurse the child. It just so happens to be Moses' mother." So she took the woman to the child and nursed him. When the child grew older, she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses because she said, "I drew him out of water." That's a cool little story. Not a story, that's a cool account. But do we ever think about the other side? Do we ever think about Moses' mother and what she went through? Number one, risking her life, risking her family's life by just hiding him for 3 months. Then putting him in the basket, putting him in the river, knowing probably he was going to be found, and then just hoping for salvation, which happened. And then was able to nurse and raise her son to a point. But at what point, mothers, are you willing to take your child and just give them to someone else? Because you can't let them know that that's your child. That had to be heart-wrenching. I couldn't imagine moving somebody 45 minutes away to Western Kentucky this week. Grown men, grown women crying. I can't imagine that right there. So I say all this to get us to this first point. We will never truly know what has been done for us to get each of us to certain points in our life. I'll never know the sacrifices that my grandparents, and my parents made. I'll never know all of them. My children will never know all of the sacrifices that Beth and I have made. We don't even remember all of them. But just remember, God puts you in certain situations, and there has been things that have been leading up to it. He's not above taking centuries to get it to that point. Be ready to do it. If we know the story of Moses, I'm going to try to briefly go through this one pretty quick. We know he flees to Midian after he kills an Egyptian who was beating a Hebrew. He's out there. He's tending his father-in-law's flocks. Sees a burning bush. He has that moment. Why is the bush not burning up? Then the bush talks to him, and it's God. Take off your sandals, all that stuff. And here's the amazing thing about Moses. He's been through all of this, we know, but he's got to know there's some things that happen for him. And God says, "Moses, you're going to be the one that's going to go lead my people out." And he's like, maybe somebody else would be better. God's like, no, it's you. It's you. You don't know everything I've done for you to get you to this point. It's you. And we all know it eventually is. Aaron is there. That they go through going back. Moses is the one person who, being raised in Pharaoh's household, would have been able to eventually come back and have an audience with the Pharaoh, being a Hebrew. They would have known him. He would have known different things about where they lived, the family heritage, so he could have had that audience. Moses, you were specifically picked. Brothers and sisters, when there are things that are given to us, opportunities that lay before us on a daily basis, remember, there could be a thing that God has specifically made sure that it was you, that it was me that was there at that moment to take advantage of that situation. As Brother Andy said this morning, at what point is the urgency going to happen to have the conversation with the lost? So we go through, he goes through the plagues. When we get through the 10 plagues, and we get to Exodus chapter 12. Exodus chapter 12, verse 36, "And the Lord had given the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they let them have what they asked. Thus they plundered the Egyptians." They went. This was after the death of the firstborn. I can't imagine the wailing that was heard throughout the country that night leading into that morning. Can we have some gold? Can we have some silver? Can we have some clothes? And they were like, whatever it is. And Pharaoh is saying, leave. Get out of here. Earlier, God tells Moses, Pharaoh will ask you to leave. Not only will he ask you to leave, he's going to force you to leave and be forcible with it. All of it's coming true. Amazingly, they just plundered an entire nation, probably the world power at the time, and they did not draw a single sword. Through the divine intervention of God, through the plagues, and it eventually took the death of the firstborn to get Pharaoh to understand this is what it's going to take. And they were like, just leave. You can have all of this stuff. Verse 41 of Exodus chapter 12 says, at the end of 430 years on that very day, all the host of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt. 430 years. Brothers and sisters, we just had the 4th of July just a little bit ago. Brent, great fireworks show. We celebrated, what was that, number 248? 248. We're at like 60% of the way there of what 430 years of sojourning, 430 years of slavery looks like. We don't operate on our time, we operate on God's time. It kind of, to me, it sheds a little light when it says a minute is like 1,000 years and 1,000 years is like a minute to God. Time does not exist to God. Time exists to us. It also sheds light on to think that your life is but a vapor, but a mist. It's here for a second and then it's gone. Take advantage of every opportunity that we have. One of the things that really stuck with me when we were in Vermilion, and Jackson, I think it was you that taught this class. If it wasn't, then I gave you credit. But from the reading that Sam did for us earlier tonight, Exodus chapter 14. You know, what happens when things get tough? Pharaoh changed his mind after the Israelites had left, after they had got done through some of the period of mourning. There was the anger. There was a, what have we done? We've lost all our free labor. We actually paid them to leave. What if they come back and attack us? This, no telling all the things that was going through his mind. So let's go attack them. And I just don't understand the children of Israel when they've seen all this and how many of the plagues, and with not affecting them, but affecting the Egyptians. And now they're worried as they're looking back and they complain to Moses, why? Was there just not enough graves back in Egypt? Was that the problem? There just wasn't going to be enough of us to dig the graves that you brought us out here to die in the wilderness, just where we could just lay, or, our bodies could just lay around. And I would love to say that I wouldn't be one of those, but the older I get, I appreciate Brent mentioning my profession. And there's one thing I've heard about firefighters, and it's not just firefighters. It turns out it's just people. There are two things that people in this world don't like. They don't like the way things are, and they don't like change. And if you don't believe me, just ask somebody. They're not happy with what's going on right now. Well, let's change it. Well, I don't want to change. Well, I thought we wasn't happy. Well, I'm not. Well, let's change, but I don't like change. Here, we were happier, Moses. Don't you understand? I get it. We had to go find our own straw to make the bricks, and I complained about it, but it really wasn't that bad. In hindsight, it really wasn't that bad as they're watching the chariots and the army come out to them. And I just can't imagine being Moses at this time, having to listen to this, knowing all the things that God has said would happen so far has happened, exactly like what they've been told. And so that's when we get down to verses 13 and 14 of Exodus chapter 14. Moses said to the people, "Fear not, stand firm, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will work for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall never see again. The Lord will fight for you, and you have only to be silent." Different translations translate that. Different translations translate yes. The word literally right there means be quiet. And I can only imagine Moses, having listened to the grumbling, having listened to the complaining, was like, the Lord is about to fight for you. All you have to do is shut your mouth, and you will see it. And right after this, as Moses is going to part the Red Sea, and they are going to cross on dry land. And as he just said, the Egyptians that you see today, you will see no more. We all understand the walls of water came crushing down on them, and they were not ever seen again. But that verse right there stood out to me. The Lord will fight for you, and you have only to be silent. It kind of made me think when you go over to Joshua chapter 6, when we've crossed over the Jordan. Again, the Lord parted the Jordan. They crossed over on dry land. The people in Jericho, Rahab, who quotes to the spies, "We know what your God did in Egypt. We know about you crossing the Red Sea." Brothers and sisters, that was 40 years ago. She knew the story. She knew the account, and she knew, and everyone in that city knew, they were going to fall, that there is one true God, and it was not the ones that they had inside of Jericho. But as they're getting ready to do their attack on Jericho, and they're told what to do, in Joshua chapter 6 and verse 10, Joshua tells the people, "You shall not shout or make your voice heard, neither shall any word go out of your mouth until the day I tell you to shout. Then you shall shout." I think through inspiration, Joshua kind of copying what Moses said as they were about ready to cross the river. Do not say a word. This one belongs to God. And God is going to prove it to us. And this is how we know we will be able to take the land. Brothers and sisters, I'm not saying for one second that we don't say a word. On the contrary, we are told to always be ready to give an answer. But what if we allow the Lord to fight for us, and we only remain silent, as in let the word do the talking? I saw a meme the other day. I have no idea why it just pops up on my feed. It's not exactly the best use of time, but hey, everybody does it. It's on social media. And it was things that are in, people think that are in the Bible, but aren't. And it was like the 7 deadliest sins. It's like, it's not in there. All sin is deadly. The Holy Grail is like, no, Steven Spielberg did a great job of bringing that one to life. It's not mentioned. It mentioned an angel I had never heard of, so I'm not sure where that one came from. And then the last one said, your opinion. Your opinion is not found anywhere in the Scripture. So what if we remain silent and we let the Word do the fighting for us? Did the explaining for us. Brother Andy spoke this morning during the Bible class period, and one of the things that he said that stuck with me was when he quoted James chapter 3 and verse 1, that not many of you should become teachers, my brothers, for you know that we who teach will be judged with greater strictness. To open your mouth, to start telling people the good news, to start telling people about God, to start showing love, maybe to start showing correcting, to start teaching. Just remember, you're bringing on greater strictness at your judgment. We've got to get it right. We've got to be silent and let the Word do the speaking. Paul said in Galatians chapter 1, verses 6 through 10, I'm astonished that you are so quickly deserting him who called you in the grace of Christ and are turning to a different gospel. Not that there is another one, but there are some who trouble you and want to distort the gospel of Christ. But even if we or an angel from heaven should preach to you a gospel contrary to the one we preach to you, let him be accursed. As we have said before, so now I say again, if anyone is preaching to you a gospel contrary to the one you received, let him be accursed. Then in Ephesians chapter 4, verses 4 and 6, Paul made sure to tell them there is one body, one Spirit, just as you were called to one hope that belongs to your call, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all, through all, and in all. What if we stopped having our opinion? What if we remain silent and let the Lord fight for us? Because he already did that, and he won. Why are we trying to refight a battle that God has already won? What if we remain silent, listen to the Word, listen to what the Word had to say, then we believed what the Word said, realized that we needed to repent, and then confess that Jesus is the Son of God, and realized we needed to be baptism, and that baptism which corresponds to this now saves you, not as a removal of dirt from the body, but as an appeal to God for a good conscience through the resurrection of Jesus Christ, as Peter said in chapter 3, verse 21, and then live a faithful life. Brothers and sisters, I just want to encourage you, God's promises do not have to come true in our lifetime. We have story after story, account after account of things that He promised, but it was not going to happen in your lifetime. Our home is not here. Our home is in heaven. What if? What if we let the Lord fight for us and we remain silent? If you have any need, we ask you to come as we stand and as we sing.
Promises, kindness, the word.